Hello, and welcome back to the LGBT Diaries. I'm your host, Gwen Broadfield. Today is our final episode, and I have to admit that I'm sad to see it end. This podcast has caused me a lot of stress, but thanks to my listeners and supporters, I know that it's not for nothing. If you've listened to every episode, I thank you for sticking with me, and if you're just joining us now, I thank you for being here. So, in today's episode, we will be interviewing Lauren. Now, just like the previous episode, Lauren is not her real name, as the person giving this interview has asked to remain anonymous. The voice is not Lauren's, but my lovely friend Gracie from episode 3. Although the voice is not Lauren's, the answers and opinions are. And again, I ask that you please do not judge Lauren or her opinions, and please be courteous of her wish to remain anonymous. And so, Lauren will be talking about our final topic, discrimination and the community. This subject is unique. Unlike the other topics, this one is talked about a lot more. But not everyone acknowledges the entire aspect. Everyone knows that one of the biggest problems for the LGBT community is discrimination. However, not everyone acknowledges that discrimination happens inside and outside the community. So Lauren will be giving us her opinion on this topic, which is something that she has faced before and will face again. But before we get into that, we need to learn more about Lauren. We need to hear about her experiences with discrimination and how she's felt supported. So, without further ado, for the final time, here is Lauren. Please state your name, age, and what part of the community you represent.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm 16 years old, and I'm asexual and panromantic.
What is your definition of asexual?
Asexuality is when a person doesn't feel sexual attraction to others, regardless of gender, aesthetics, or anything else.
Is there a stereotype associated with asexuals that offends or angers you?
I don't think it's really a stereotype, but I wish it was easier to understand that sometimes your sexual feelings are different than your romantic ones. Asexual people are assumed to never want romantic relationships, which I kind of understand because a fair amount of them are romantic and don't.
Do you think members of the community can be unwelcoming to asexuals?
Definitely. And the inclusion of asexuality as a part of the LGBTQ community is a topic of discourse. A lot of people feel like it's not a real part of the community because we don't face the same types of levels of discrimination as other identities.
Do you think there's enough coverage of the LGBT community in the media?
No, I don't. I don't think I know of any characters in mainstream media that are confirmed as asexual.
Have you ever been told that you're too young to know your sexuality?
Yeah, it took me 3 tries to tell my mom for her to believe that I wasn't just a late bloomer.
Have you come out to your family?
Yes, I have.
Can you tell me why?
I felt like it was something I needed to tell my mom about. I have a really close relationship with her, and I didn't want to keep secrets from something that I felt was so important to me. I also know that my mom is tolerant. Even if she was skeptical of my sexuality, she would never disown me or treat me as a disgrace.
Have you come out to your friends?
Yes, I've come out to most of them.
Did you feel that your friends would be more welcoming towards your sexuality?
I think part of it is generational. My friends are growing up in a world where LGBT issues are discussed openly with less bigotry. The people around me are accepting, trustworthy, and would genuinely listen to me if I explained myself to them. Also, a lot of them are gay and bi, so I know they're cool.
Do you think family acceptance is important in the coming out process?
It's incredibly important. Coming out can and is a huge risk of how people react to something you can't control. It's liberating and wonderful, but only if you feel comfortable with the people you're coming out to. There's probably nothing worse than the look at the people who raised you and swore to protect you and care for you, and watching them chastise you as if you are a problem. Your family, at least while you're in school, are the people you see every day, and you should be your biggest support base. Having them not accept you is like constantly hiding and lugging around this huge weight or feeling the world fall out from underneath your feet and free falling.
How have your friends supported and encouraged your sexuality?
Most of the people know are LGBT. They made me feel at home with myself. I can talk about anything, and I never have to filter out parts of myself when I'm out. When I'm talking about how pretty a girl is to one of my friends, we're mutually ganging up on it, and it's totally safe for each other. It's an unspoken consistent where they don't need to say, I support you and I think you're valid, because with the way that they treat me, I never have to question it.
Are you afraid of being bullied or mistreated because of your sexuality?
Not right now. I'm only out to certain people, and I know they won't ever mistreat me because of my sexuality. But if I was out with everyone, I'd be a lot more worried about bullying and harassment. So actually, yeah, I'm kind of worried about bullying and mistreatment, but mostly just people seeing me differently. That's why I'm leaving this anonymous. I'm always going to be a little bit worried about how someone would treat me if they were a part of this section of the LGBT community that doesn't think aces are part of the community, or if they think that a straight person who doesn't approve of me liking girls.
Do you think the mistreatment of LGBT youth comes from peers or adults?
I think the mistreatment of the LGBT community youth starts at adults with prejudice and hatred. Kids get so much of their opinion and beliefs from adults in their lives. The kind of youth that would bully an LGBT kid or other of them get their intolerance from their families. Theirs also is just a generational difference. I've seen a lot of older adults I know still think that LGBT is a controversial topic, while kids I know either are supportive or they just don't care. There are a couple bad apples for sure, but the rottenest bunch is the adults I've met that talk about the LGBT people like they're strange and an immoral species.
What would you say to someone who's afraid to come out?
You're not doing anything wrong by not coming out. I know that there's a huge desire to come out, and the world should be in a place where you're comfortable being able to say who you are, but if you don't, there's nothing wrong with being closeted. You're still a valid and still a part of the community, and you don't have to share yourself to prove that. Also, there are more of us than you think. I found in my group of friends 3-ish years ago, and while we were all thought to be straight, now up to 90% of my friends have come out as LGBT. You'll find that people will accept you in college, online, and as you grow, people will come into your life that you know that will love you unconditionally, and I believe you'll be in a place where you can come out safely someday.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about discrimination in the community. This is something that you have faced both inside and outside the community, and I just wanted to gain your personal perspective on it. Do you think that certain sexualities or gender identities are not recognized by the media?
Yes. Pan and trans and bi and non-binary people all don't get enough representation or recognition.
Are there sexualities or gender identities that you personally don't support?
No, actually, I think I once saw something about a person being a snow-sexual, but besides that, no, I support all sexualities and gender identities that I know of. There's no reason not to. It doesn't affect anybody but the person who identifies as that gender or sexuality.
Do you believe that asexuals and pansexuals are given enough support and recognition?
I feel like the support that we have within the community is pretty intense when it's not overwhelming. But most people don't know what asexuality and pansexuality often gets confused with bisexuality in people that don't specifically educate themselves on LGBT issues. There could be a lot more representation and a lot more normalization of those two sexualities.
Why do you think certain sexualities are recognized and supported more?
I think that sexualities are supported based on how much they're recognized, because as we are putting them in more social media and discuss them more, people have become more familiar and accepting, treating sexualities like they are not too NSFW for TV, or prohibiting them from being shown allows bigotry to show as people can invent their own ideas about the LGBTQ community, people, and have no basis for their information.
Do you think that members of the LGBT community can be supportive of other sexualities and gender identities?
Yes, definitely. For every person that creates a discourse and tries to gatekeep people from the community, there are just as many spreading positivity and inclusiveness to all sexualities and genders. Lots of people in the community aren't small-minded, and it's unfortunate that those who try to divide us have such loud voices.
What do you think it will take for different sexualities and gender identities to be recognized and supported?
Time and conversation. Sexualities can't be supported or recognized if people don't properly understand them. And people become more normalized to sexualities and stop believing they're new or made up. They'll become bigger topics of conversation, and people can start to accept us.
What would you say to someone who feels unsupported by the LGBT community?
There are definitely some people out there feeling the same way as you are, and definitely people out there that support you. Hate and lack of recognition stems from misunderstanding, and that isn't your fault. The world will eventually change, and you won't always have to feel this way.
So now, just to close out the podcast, I would like to ask you about transgender rights. This subject has been highly debated in the past years, and I really just wanted to gain perspective on someone not only in the community, but who's from a less recognized part of the community. So why do you think it took so long for transgender people to be able to serve in the military?
General bigotry. I'm pretty uneducated on this topic, and there's probably a lot of nuanced hatred and ignorance people showed towards trans people joining the military that I don't know about.
Do you think transgender people should be able to use the bathroom of their choice?
Definitely.
Why do you think it's so difficult for people to understand the concept of being transgender?
Cis people live so confidently in their gender that they usually think of transgender people as having decided one day that they wanted to be something else. They've never had to grapple with the question of how they identify that way, and usually don't understand being trans is like knowing you're a girl, but having the world constantly beat you're a boy into you.
Why do you think family acceptance is more difficult for transgenders rather than other parts of the community?
I think that with sexuality, we've learned to not specifically attach the idea of someone's attraction to their gender. We understand that a girl, boy, gender influence, non-binary, etc. doesn't determine lesbian, bi, pan, gay, ace, but people attach sexuality organs to gender as if it's the ultimate decider of how you identify and a surefire way to determine someone's gender. People think you're choosing how to be when you explain to them you're transgender. And then that can open up a conversation that should never have happened. Why? But there isn't a reason transgender people switch gender, because that's not what they're doing. They're saying that they're tired of having people not understand who they are and living a life where they have to pretend to be a certain gender for someone else's sake.
Some states require a person to have gender reassignment surgery in order to be recognized as their preferred gender. Do you think that's necessary?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And this is my final question of the podcast, of my entire thing, really. Do you think that the treatment of transgender people will improve in the next few years?
I hope it does. I hope transgender people get more recognition and support, but with the current political climate, I don't know if that'll happen.
And that's it. I thank you so much for listening and for all of your support. A huge thank you goes out to everyone who participated in this project. You have no idea how much your help means to me. As for the rest of you, I truly hope that your perspective has been changed, or that you at least accepted that there are multiple perspectives on a topic. I hope that this podcast has and will make a difference, and that it will give needed support to the LGBT community.
So once again, thank you for listening.